Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick, and today, guys, we're going to be jumping down into the charts for BTC, giving you some brief technical analysis on what I would expect to happen, over the next couple of days, over the weekend. So as I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. If you haven't yet joined us in Discord, links in the description down below. Fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there, so why not go ahead and check it out. Okay, guys, let's get into this, right? Bitcoin paired up with USDT. We're on the hourly chart, and Binance is our data source for this one. So as we get into this, we can kind of see that we're tracking this kind of corrective pattern moving down. Okay, this is something I've been talking about for a little while. Basically, we've got this one scoped out between $36,000 down here and our slightly higher range here of about $37,500. There's multiple different reasons for this. We've also refined it ever so slightly to about 36,200 and up to a maximum of about 37,300. As we kind of get into some of these additional wave counts, we can kind of be a little bit more predictive over where we are heading. This seems to be the most probable area that we're kind of aiming for, and there's also the area of 36,600. Essentially, if we think about these two broader ranges, we should be somewhere in there, and I'm trying to just narrow that down ever so slightly as we kind of work with this. Essentially, what we're looking at is a big ABC structure coming down here. And what we're really looking for is that to kind of come down to about the 36,200 on the 1-to-1 ratio. As we go into the sub-wave counts, however, that is actually indicating 37,300. So somewhere between those two numbers seems to be an area that we want to be focusing in on. And this is something that I think is going to play out over the next few days. But obviously today is a very important day. I'll probably do another video on BTC, specifically about the monthly closing position and what that looks like, so do watch out for that one later. I think that's going to be quite key as to what happens next for next week, basically. But right now, I think we are probably more than likely going to continue to kind of bounce around a little bit. So as I bring the stochastic RSI back up, you can see that we're in the overbought area, and we've actually moved this up a little bit here, or the stochastic RSI from oversold to overbought, with actually pushing the price down. So essentially, we've gone kind of sideways, and it's nothing too glamorous going on, nothing too strenuous or anything like that. And what I think is likely to happen here is we're going to bounce around a little bit. Obviously, we want to get that monthly close in a really good position, so we'll have to see how that plays out, whether or not we'll magically just move up or stay above, $39,000, just to kind of keep us above the, that particular threshold. But if not, then, I would expect us to come down here pretty rapidly afterwards. So tomorrow is going to be a really interesting day. We'll either continue to kind of trade sideways, or we'll pull right down into this lower range, in my opinion. Okay, now this is just one of the corrections, okay, on a series of corrections to the downside, in my opinion. Okay, so as we kind of move out a little bit, and I zoom out a tad here, you can see that we're actually a part of a much bigger corrective phase. Okay, we had the bounce up to about $42,000, a little bit short on my target. I was expecting this to be between 43 and 45. It did fall a little bit shorter, and we broke back down from here. And this is a corrective pattern that we are kind of mirroring of what has happened previously. Now, if we were to mirror the difference on this, a 1-to-1 ratio, you would expect us to find a few bounces to the upside. Okay, nothing moves down in straight lines, there's bounces all over the place, but essentially we are talking about moving down to about 34,400. okay, and that's basically on a 1-to-1 ratio. If I zoom on out here, you can see it's basically measuring the same distance as our A wave as our C wave. That would basically be a good bouncing position. Okay, and if we do, let's say, get that monthly close in a really bad position, I'd still expect ourselves to bounce from these two areas. The bounces, however, might be minor rather than major. Okay, so I expect a bounce between 36, but there's just going to be some buying pressure in these zones anyway, and they come to the natural kind of end of corrective phases. This basically means that sentimentally, or psychology behind the traders are basically saying to them that the Fibonacci numbers that sit behind these particular retracement levels and these particular wave counts would indicate that there's going to be some buying pressure. People are more than likely going to buy this area before selling off again and triggering us to go down lower. So I'm expecting a bounce at 36 regardless. I'm also expecting a bounce at 34 regardless. But on the bigger piece, if we are, to close that monthly candle in a negative way, 34K would just be a minor bounce up and then a more significant retracement afterwards. Okay, and again, I'll do a whole video on this afternoon, so check that one out, and hopefully I'll make it a little bit clearer. I'm not going to go into that in this particular video. So definitely do check that one out. Now, essentially, I think for now, because we do not have that closed position on the monthly, we'll assume that this is going to be the end of the correction, okay? But tomorrow that might change. Just be aware of that, right? So for now, with the current data as it stands, we're not likely to close because the current price is above the closure threshold of that monthly candle. Then that would mark that 34,000 is probably going to be the bottom of this corrective phase, okay? So therefore, we have a bounce at about 36, 37. We move up a little bit, and then we move down towards our $34,000 range, okay? That should then mark a nice big reversal point where we start to see a bigger structure or bigger kind of reversal to the upside, okay? That's kind of what we're looking for. That's kind of what we're hoping for, and all of that kind of really good stuff. Now, of course, if that monthly close does happen differently, then we'll adjust this, and we'll go in for a bit of an update on this particular analysis tomorrow. Now, as I come into the daily, we bring this back down, we can see that this is a pretty big corrective phase, and I do want to kind of highlight one additional piece of information that's maybe not readily available to many people. If I throw this on here, we've got some sub-wave counts being quite an interesting one. We have basically a major ABC move coming down here, and we also have this as a fifth wave. Now, this is the artificial intelligence-based Elliott waves that you can put onto TradingView. These are not accurate by any stretch of the imagination. This is definitely not a fifth wave high. Okay, the fifth wave high has minimum thresholds, and that is not it. So I know that this is not actually accurate for plotting out like impulsive structures or anything like that from what I've seen, but it's good to kind of get an idea of what the AI is also thinking about in terms of plotting those particular waves on your charts. You can look it up if you want, guys, but from my experience with it so far, this is not as accurate as it needs to be. So I'll let you know if it ever gets improved upon and all that kind of stuff. But essentially, we are tracking this as a move up higher. Now, this is a 5-wave structure here, which is, I think, is probably what the AI is actually picking up on. If I'm being brutally honest, it sees a 5-wave structure here, it sees a 5-wave structure within this move as well. But I think what we might actually end up with is this is a 5-wave structure as a part of a 5-wave move, which means that's 5. We have 3 coming down. We maybe end up with another 5 waves, another 3 down, another 5 waves up higher. Okay, so if we actually scale this back out again, we can see the scale of wave 1 as I've plotted it, wave 2, wave 3, wave 4, wave 5 still to come. Now, obviously, the slightly longer term views here, whether it happens in 2022 or 2023, personally, I think 2022, and it shouldn't really carry over into 2023, but it is possible. After all, no one can really predict timings in this market, not at least not accurately. So I think we've got that $79,000 to $108,000 range. That's kind of scoped out here. We have the 165 slightly higher push, and if you're really bullish and want to put some crazy numbers out there, $250,000. I don't think we're going to get there personally, but with the significant shrinkage of the supply, as indicated with everything that's been going on with Glassnode data, I just come here and we'll have a look at the net position change. We're well over 4 million BTC leaving the exchanges this year so far. That's over 20% of the circulating supply that has disappeared from exchanges, which means there's a huge shrinkage of available BTC to retail investors, and that's a key metric you need to understand. We take a look at the balance of Bitcoin on exchanges. It's absolutely nosediving as we're having this correction. These are things that we haven't necessarily seen in the past, right? This is new data. We saw pretty much in 2017, 2018 bull run, we saw nothing but Bitcoin going onto the exchanges in a really rapid way. We haven't really experienced what it's like to see this amount of Bitcoin just disappear from the exchanges. And we know where it's going. It's going into the whale wallets. We can see this with 1,000 BTC wallets. They've basically been increasing quite dramatically. Okay, I'll talk about this later when we talk about the monthly close position this afternoon. But essentially, this is what's going to be the catalyst of the big move going up. And it does mean that some of these higher numbers are possible. It doesn't require that amount of money to go into Bitcoin to do it anymore because of that shrinkage of supply. So essentially, we're kind of tracking quite a few different things here, right? Under the current data that we have available, the monthly close looking good at the moment, we should be thinking that we've got this correction coming down. We're talking about a $36,000, $37,500 Bitcoin bouncing up and then finally falling down towards our $34,000 range. That essentially will lower our stochastic RSI, not just on our hourly, but also our 8-hour. We'll bring down our daily, and we'll bring down our weekly. Our monthly is already oversold, but it can be down here for a little bit longer as need be. So essentially, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Corrections down, bounces up, corrections down, and then hopefully a fantastic 5-wave structure up from there. Okay, so if you have found this video useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.